Hello and welcome to Dynamics Update. We are back again with a new episode, and this time we have a new guest that we will be talking to. With me, as usual, I have Gustav Sundblad, my colleague. Hello, Gustav.
Hello, Johan. How are you this evening?
I'm good. A bit tired, a bit stressed, but otherwise it's good. But we also have a guest. This is a person I met last week when I was in Redmond, and we started talking a bit about BPA. So, hi, Jinnie. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. It was really nice to meet you last week.
Yes, you too. So I've just been doing like an install of BPA, and I'm a bit curious. Could you please give us the elevator pitch for BPA?
Sure. And also explain the acronym BPA. Maybe take it from the beginning. What's your role and what is BPA?
Yeah, so we started the BPA journey about 4 years ago. So BPA stands for Business Performance Analytics, and the name, of course, also already evolved, and this is the name we landed on. We started BPA because we have reporting solutions, right, in F&O and in almost all ERPs where you have the ability to run financial reports. You also have the ability to run reports that support your month-end close, like your aging reports and your transaction detail reports. But over the years, what we're seeing our customers need, and also from my experience in my background, is we need so much more than just those static reports, right? And even with recent GAAP and regulatory regulations, they're asking for more detail even on regulatory reports, right? So then what you're seeing the finance team start to do is they start to move into this analytical realm. I mean, that realm was always reserved for financial analysts in the past, but now you see accountants have to do that. It's they have to explain numbers. Why is this AP number so high? Why did we pay this vendor so much? So we looked at, when I started this project, it was to really begin to say, how do we get all that data that's in the ERP that's already been put in there out back to the customers in a way that they can slice and dice the data to get the answers they need. And so I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I spent about 23 years in finance and accounting. I graduated in accounting and I went straight into it. And so a large part of my career was my passion in data. I worked in every role I've ever been in. I've always, somehow built some sort of a database or a source that I could leap into every month when I'm doing my month-end close to validate my numbers, right? So, an accountant's biggest job is validation. We have to tell you number and we have to tell you how we got there and what it is. And so, when I was handed this project, it was honestly like a dream come true for me, because to me, it's oh my gosh, I get an opportunity to put together a solution that spans the ERP, right? So we started off with the finance model, but I'm able to get down to transaction level detail and explain numbers on financials or explain variances or even do forward-looking insights that can provide, the user so much more value. So we started the BPA journey. We started looking at how we wanted to do this, and we decided that a dimensional data model was the best way to do this, because we needed the model to be easy, right? We wanted users to be able to use it, it's not a pro dev experience, it's a user experience. We wanted it to be timely, right, and accurate. And then we also wanted it to be extensible, right? So we know that in every company, you don't just use one ERP. You have an ERP, you have your other SaaS systems outside, you have your legacy databases. So how do you get all that data in to a singular model? So we stuck by strict dimensional modeling principles, a strict star schema, essentially. And we started to build on that concept by modeling for each business process. So anything that creates a transaction in your system is a business process, and that's what we model at. We model at the lowest grain. So that's every line on your invoice, every line on your purchase order, and so forth. So that's how the BPA journey started.
Very cool. I mean, and it's as you said, it's process connected, process aware. I mean, I'm an old ETL BI developer, so I've always had kind of the same struggle, not coming at it from the accountant side, but more coming at it from, hi, Gustav, please build a model for me side, which I've always been tackled, right? And it's always been working with AX for quite a while. It's always been like, okay, one bit of the work is understanding the process and what are we trying to achieve, but from a technical aspect, it's especially now with this hugely normalized database, it's always, when you get to the data engineers, you have to explain, okay, how does this table relate to this table? What is a sales ID? How does the journey of a sales ID go through the business process? I think that's where we spend like 90% of the time nowadays, because now you basically just enable data flow, and then you need to explain the model. So I think when I started looking at BPA, I was super impressed by, of course, by like the ease of spinning it up to just, okay, here's a bunch of reports and you're done. But also looking at the model, which I was very interested in, like, okay, how can we achieve a lot of this simplicity in reporting and strip away the complexity and the time, really, really time-consuming task it takes to explain a very complicated data set to someone who's never seen it before. So I think that's really cool. But the reasoning of why you went like process side and not went like module, was that something you guys decided, or is it more to align with the business process catalog that's been driving?
No, we actually started. I would say we started parallel with the business process catalog.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, and we did it, and we're actually trying to align more with the business process catalog right now. But we did it for the user, right?
Yeah,
for the
makes
customer.
sense.
If you're an AP person, you know an invoice, you know a payment.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's very cool. And Johan, you've installed it at least a couple of times. What's your take on the this? I mean, all of this new fancy stuff coming in Dynamics, it's always coming like an app. So it's not sits outside of Dynamics, but it's built on data from Dynamics.
So what I really liked about it was that it was very standardized, so to speak. You get, I mean, going through either Synapse Link or Fabric Link, there is a big hurdle getting to somewhere where you actually get a useful data set out or a useful report out. In this case, you have a standard data set, you have standard reports, and these reports are basically at least some of what every company needs. So, because in almost all of the projects I've been in, the analytics part is sort of an afterthought. When we are almost going live, it's like, crap, we need the reports, and someone needs to sit down and build them. This is really good. This is also why I like the built-in embedded Power BI stuff, because it was like, there are some reports that every company needs to produce. Every company needs to see. There are like universal principles of accounting that we need to see some numbers because they are comparable to all other companies in the world. So we need to see them. And in this case, I almost see this as the same thing as when we do like electronic reports and all of the other things, that some things shouldn't have to be invented. They should just be available in the product.
Yeah. So, and as part of it is like also understanding that we're evolving in, even like, if I'll speak from a finance perspective, right? The finance role has evolved, right? In the past, like, when I started working, I'm going to date myself now, but when I started working, it's like, close to 30 years ago, it was a lot about just reconciliation, like, and the transactions were not complex. There wasn't a lot of data. And today it's not just reconciliation, it's analysis, it's insights, it's decision-making, right? And, more and more, and like, 30 years ago, a CEO would make a decision based on feeling or, like some hard-driven market facts that took a while to create. Whereas today, CEOs are looking for immediate fact. They're looking for immediate feedback, right?
Yeah.
And we can't get at that. And, you don't necessarily get at that from just one analyst. It's everybody in the company needs to be able to speak to it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it needs to be the same, right? I think that's one of the drivers as well, like ensuring, because what you describe as well is like controllers or any level that you need data analysts. Excel has been the main driver. I mean, before Cloud and SaaS, everyone had an ODBC connection to production database, and they just pulled the data out and everyone did their own analytics. So reaching that state where you can always, as you say as well, both reliably say that it's fast enough, but it's also the same truth. It's not everyone else's truth. I think that's one of the main drivers from what I see.
Yeah, and having a singular model that feeds that so that everyone is getting the same answer and everything reconciles is key. The other thing about BPA, another thing that we wanted to highlight was the composability. So we released 14 reports right now. We're going to build on it, right? But for now, there's 14 base model reports. But what you can do with those reports is you can duplicate those reports and then you can make it your own. And so that to me was super, super powerful because now we've created this model, we've simplified the model for you, we've given you a platform, Power BI embedded, where you can now change the report. You want to add a field, you want to report by dimension, you want to slice and dice your data by quarters or years. You have the capability to do that. And this power is put now in the hands of the user and it's not complex. Power BI Embedded is a great tool for that because it's managed, right? So your IT team doesn't have to worry about who has access or who's breaking what report. Security is managed within BPA, so it's one thing that as a IT manager you can just deploy to your finance team and give them the power. But if you have folks on your team who are like super users and they want to do deeper analytics, then you can extend into Fabric.
Yeah.
And when you extend into Fabric, now you have the full capabilities of Power BI Desktop. And that you can do that there. But also within BPA, you now also have the ability to extend into Excel. So just like you said, before you'd have a connection into your database, now you have a connection directly from Excel into the data model.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really been that was the game changer from what BPA, because initially BPA, without having like the model available in Fabric and being able to build more advanced stuff on it, I think BPA had a very good use case, especially as you described, you might have projects where you come in and even though you do analytics like from the start, everything is by the book. It also, I mean, those reports that you described, Jinnie, they take a whole chunk out of that like report backlog, so you could focus on fancy sales dashboards or stuff that might not be in the BPA model and let BPA take that chunk of reporting that it does very well. So I think it had a very good use case there as well, and still does. But now with it being able to use like extending the model and actually just getting the model out and then building more advanced analytics on that. As I mentioned, it for me, especially as a technical architect, it can take a lot of strain away by saying, okay, I don't need to explain this complex data model to you guys. I can just give you the model. It makes things a lot easier. And as you say, if you build, then you can build on that just reliably. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And does that mean, I mean, we're moving away? There's been so many, maybe that's not a question you can answer, Jinnie, but we're moving away from the aggregated entities that we've had. There's been a little bit of I was going to say the Swedish word is spretig. Johan, help me out. Like shattered approach. Okay, we can go this way, or we can choose this way, or we can choose that way. Using BPA, kind of, to me, it makes most sense to use BPA if your reporting needs fits within the processes that are there. That it makes no sense to go any other direction, because then you kind of get the model, right?
Yeah, and so if you're referring to entity store, so eventually entity store will come on top of, and BPA will essentially replace all the entity store reports, right? Because it just makes sense. It makes the reporting a whole lot easier. It makes extensibility a whole lot easier. So yeah, that's definitely in the plans. Probably not this year, but maybe next year.
And it makes sense, because in the end you want to avoid this, like, okay, which one should I choose? There should be, as you say, it should be just one choice. Of course, you still have the valid choice of doing Delta Lake exports and like building everything on your own. That's because customers are unique. Some customers have whole teams of data engineers, and they just want this and this and this table because they would, for reasons unknown. And then some other customers might not have that. They just have very, very good controllers or accountants that are used to building their own self-serve reports. So that way you can kind of cater to both. And that it's included in the license is also, was that like a hard sell, or was that like part of the discussions from the plan to make it like within the Dynamics Finance license?
It was within the plan. I mean, our goal is to enable our customers with as much data as possible within the finance license. So right now what we're doing is we've given essentially an A3 license covers what you need. Now, because we're currently still using direct link import, that shrinks that down quite a bit, right? But by the end of this year, we're going to be moved to direct link queries. That'll open that up quite a bit. So you'll get an A3 license is included as part of your finance license, and you'll be able to report on all your data. We'll maintain the models for you. We'll update the models for you and enable you that way.
Yeah. And if you use Fabric, you need to have some Fabric capacity as well, right? That's like on top of. If you're just using BPI installation as an add-in, then you kind of get away with finance license. But if you're using Fabric, you need to Fabric capacity as well, of course.
Correct. Yeah, you bring your own Fabric license, and then you essentially bring BPA and local tables into Fabric using shortcuts. But we also give you the PBIX file essentially that we use for our data set. So you can use that as a starting point in Fabric.
Exactly. And I think that's great. And it really opens up what I described as another starting point, because I've been in so many, I think I told you this, Johan, before. I think I mentioned in the Fabric podcast. I've been in very many meetings where angry data engineers are coming at me and saying, why, Gustav? Why is this data model so complicated? And then I have to explain the relations of retail transaction tables and stuff. So that it helps me out. So thank you so much to you and the team for that.
I'm glad that's good. I think one topic that I know this has been brought up a lot, but one thing that I feel really good about when it comes to talking about the BPA data model is when we start talking about agents and AI and going down that route, right? The one thing I feel comfortable with is that when you build an agent on top of the data model, you are not just going to be able to query reports, but you'll be able to query the model, right? So when you start talking about insights and things that you can derive from it, what you also get, which is super key in finance, is validation.
Yeah.
So like if I was to query, say, a report, it would just give me essentially summarization, which is not a big deal, right? And we've all seen that Power BI does it right now, Fabric does it right now, and you get summarization of data. But if your agent can query the model and you get insights and I ask you what's the difference in revenue from one quarter to another, or why revenue changed, you won't just give me a number, but the agent will be able to return back to me and tell me what product was impacted, what region was impacted, what customer changed, what pricing changed, right? And so there's deeper insights behind that. So that's my AI plug for the day.
Yeah, and it's very good. Yeah, it's a very good sentiment. I mean, and also empowered. We had a discussion earlier as well, like when the agents within the application dynamics are context aware, so to speak, like where you are, and then it also have a connection to, as you say, a context aware model, especially. So the agent knows what it's doing, it knows where it is, and it knows what it needs to query, and then it can go down, as you say, on a lower level and make its own analysis. That really opens up a lot of powerful scenarios, I think. Not only from like providing data so you can take actions, but also from an agent perspective where you can actually act on that data as well. So I'm really looking forward to diving in more. I need more time to spend on playing around with these different models and agents.
Yeah. I'll create another plugin here. So we host weekly office hours where we talk about BPA, essentially issues and new things that are coming up. And we also have a monthly customer advisory board that we've published. Now that we're GA, this is all available. Our Yammer group is also public. And so I invite, if you're interested, if this is an area you want to explore more, it's the best place to get started.
That's a great plug. And it's all, the links to all of these are on the Viva Engage, previously known as Yammer forums, right? I think that's the place to be to kind of get these updates fast. And maybe we can also share a link in the session notes, Johan.
Yes, absolutely. So how do you see what's coming up next that you can talk about?
Yeah, so our main focus for this year, there's two things. One is we want to get to a more frequent refresh, right? So currently we're at twice a day refresh. The next step is we're going to get to 4 times a day refresh. And by the end of the year, we're going to get down to hourly refreshes. Now, for month-end close, not ideal. We understand that. That's why we're going to keep pushing. Into next year, our goal is to get to a 20, 30-minute refresh and then continue to improve from there. So that's our goal for this year. The second goal for this year is data volume, right? So like I mentioned earlier, we're still using direct lake import, right? And that doesn't work. So what we need to do is we need to move from that into direct query to the lake. And that's also going to come about towards the end of this year. Those are the two main things that we're focused on to develop and build out the customer experience. Now, in addition to that, we've also got models that we're releasing this year. So we'll continue to provide updates to what those models are. And we're looking at building velocity and how we release those models and enable our customers more. But we're moving beyond the finance So we've created the finance model. Now we're going to move out to the rest of the ERP and start to go down the SCM route and the project operations. And we've got lots of requests in those areas on models so that our customers can continue to write good reports.
Yeah, and commerce as well, right?
Commerce as well, yeah.
Yeah. Has there been any discussions? I mean, the usage throughout, a lot of discussions now are on license and Dataverse capacity and tables and so forth. I've been using BPA in various scenarios, not the huge data volume scenarios. Has there been any discussions into that? I mean, have you gotten any feedback from customers on the usage of table size of BPA?
Yeah, so because we're still in direct lake import, there's not been like, if you come in, you're restricted right away.
Yeah.
So I think that discussion will probably see more of that and be able to evaluate better as we get towards the later part of this year. So we can definitely pick that up.
Yeah, makes sense. It's very hard to say because I mean, in the one scenario you have a lot of capacity, it's not a problem, and the other scenario you have less, so you need to kind of make some decisions and drawbacks, and being able to. We had a discussion earlier as well with regarding to archiving. If you could make use of some tables to be efficient, and also maybe if you're using Fabric and kind of pushing data to somewhere else, then maybe you can you don't need to save it for 30 days. So within within Dataverse and so forth. So there might be some discussions there. Looking forward to seeing data maintenance, maybe a co-pilot agent. Johan, we mentioned that before. We need a co-pilot data steward, I think, both in F&O and I think maybe on Dataverse side as well. We need a co-pilot agent steward or something.
That's actually great feedback. I'm going to take that and share that with the team.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, one of the things we're going to start doing in the office hours is we're going to start sharing co-pilot scenarios we're just doing quick POCs because we want to get feedback. And we'd love to hear more feedback on what you want to see, because we don't want to build agentic scenarios that customers don't want.
No,
right? We don't want to just build another summarization scenario for you. We want to build something that will actually become a tool that will make you more successful.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, back to the Viva Engage forums. At some point, these forums will be overwhelmed with people, so maybe they kind of lose their too much for you guys to do from a product team to go in and answer all that feedback. But as you say, I mean, you post the links to office hours and feedback like for polls and forums. So the more people that are actually using the product are there, the better feedback you get. So again, it's a very good push for that.
I was going to say, are there any other questions? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to make sure I highlight. I mean, BPA is ever evolving, right? And then, so I think that's one thing that we need to keep in mind is like, that's one of the reasons why we keep the customer interaction going. One thing that we did that I'm really happy with is we brought the customer along from the beginning. So from day one of creating BPA, when we were still working in Excel and Power BI and full concepts, we started our customer advisory board. And it's been with the customer's feedback along the way that we've continued to build out the model. Now, I would have loved for us to have been a lot faster, but we are where we are today, but we are continuing to improve. And so having the customer alongside of us, getting your feedback, getting thoughts from the customer and understanding scenarios, like it's amazing, right? It's like I've been in the industry for 23 years and I thought I'd seen everything, but then I talk to customers and I hear about, other scenarios and I'm like, wow, that's really complex.
Yeah.
But then I see how BPA can actually, be a part of the solution for the customer, and it's super exciting. A couple of things to note also is, the data models right now, we have a report in BPA called the documentation report. And what it is, there's 3 tabs in the report. The first one is like a bus matrix. It shows you all the facts and all the dimensions and how they conform, right? So you can see what joins to what. But the second tab is a mapping tab. And that's where we actually take you and we map every single field on our transform tables back into F&O. So you can derive from there immediately what fields we're using to create these tables and, confirm or at least attest to what you need to use. The third one is a glossary of all our measures. So, in Power BI, we create measures and we make the reporting a little easier. And we disclose to you all those measures. So this kind of transparency that we've had with the customer from the beginning and we'll continue to carry through, I believe is what has allowed us to be where we are today and to continue to grow. Our goal is to be able to build an entire model for the ERP that conforms. Now, it may not all be in one data set, but if you needed to conform business processes across, you could.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I think, and again, driving back the link between the applications, in the end, you can get a single workspace or an AI-enabled workspace where you can kind of jump back and forth between insights and actually acting on those insights within your business process. So that would be very cool. Great.
Yes. I think we are actually done for today. We would like to thank you, Jinnie, for joining us for this
Thank you so much.
Talk.
All right. Thank you both for your time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. And we hope to get you back soon again. So
Right.
have a nice evening and bye-bye.
Thank you, Jinnie. Bye.
Bye.